In today's episode, we'll address why you should rethink your organization structure if you expect to build a winning team. Specifically, you'll learn that most business owners are missing out on the impact their organization chart can have on their team, that a properly executed org chart can significantly influence the behavior of your team members, and that there are 3 simple steps you can take to turn your org chart into a strategic tool for your business. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It, a show helping small business owners build a radically engaged team that can run the business without you, so you can remove the stress from owning a business and enjoy the freedom you deserve. Now, here's your host, Rich Allen.
Here's my question for you this week. Does your organization structure energize your team to grow and stay with you for the long term? Our topic today is one that you may think is boring or unimportant: your organization structure. But before you tune out, I want you to know this topic may be the biggest missed opportunity you have to energize and inspire your team. Don't believe me? Well, give me just 10 minutes and I'm confident I can change your mind. Here's why. One of the first things I typically ask business owners to do when I meet them is to draw out their organization chart for me. If we're meeting in person, I give them a marker and ask them to draw it on a whiteboard in my office. It's an interesting exercise for them and a fun exercise for me, because in most cases, they haven't actually ever drawn out their org chart, and it often is a clumsy, uncertain exercise that we fumble our way through. The drawings are always a bit odd. Very few business owners think in terms of their org chart. They see people rather than seeing functions. So the board is often filled with names of their team members, with lines going everywhere showing how they relate to one another. This is particularly the case for small businesses. When someone has 2 or 3 team members, the lines that represent their roles and responsibilities become a bit like spaghetti, crossing one another, sharing duties, sometimes doing one job, other times doing another job. I often take photos of the initial drawing just to remember where we started on this journey of making sense of how their organization truly works. One day I may publish them as a cartoon book. But once we get past the fun part of the exercise, we often move to a very serious discussion by asking one straightforward question. So how do people on your team know what opportunities might exist for them in the future with your business? Think about that for a moment. Does the org chart that you use and show to others help anyone who's currently on your team to know what opportunities might exist for them in the future if they stay with your business? My bet is the answer is no. In fact, I don't think I've ever met a business owner who has an org chart that energizes and motivates their team members. And I believe that's because we've never thought about our org chart in that way. We see it as a necessity or a nuisance, something that as soon as we publish it is out of date. Someone or several someones have left the company or changed roles, and frankly, we don't have time to constantly update the document when we know who everyone is and what everyone does anyway. But here's where I want you to think differently. The org chart isn't necessarily for you, it should be for your team. Whether you know it or not, your organization chart can and should tell a lot about the vision you have for your company. And today, I want to give you a few very practical thoughts on how you can make that happen with just a few simple changes in what you're probably already doing. I want to break this down into 3 very simple areas I want you to focus on. Number 1, I want you to think about your organization by function rather than by person. This may not sound like a big deal, but here's why it is. If you're a solopreneur, You'd probably think that an org chart is a total waste of time. What would it tell someone when your chart would consist of one box, you? But your reality is that while you're the only person who works in your business, you actually fill multiple boxes. You handle marketing for your business. You're responsible for sales. You handle all operations. You're the customer service team. You handle your financials. If you've got an IT issue, you're the IT professional. I could go on, but let's be honest. The reason you go home exhausted every night is that you've been doing at least 6, if not 7 or 8 different roles in your business. Does this sound familiar to you? I'd be surprised if it didn't. Even if you have a small team, my bet is that each person on your team wears multiple hats. But typically, when we show them on an organization chart, they only show up once. The 3-person team typically has 3 boxes, when in fact, they have the same 8 or 10 boxes that a larger company has, but we don't display or recognize it in that way. That's why the first thing I want you to do is to build an organization chart that reflects the functions in your business, not the people in your business. You and others will likely show up multiple times on your org chart, and for now, that's okay. Number 2, I want you to build your organization chart for the business you want to have in 3 years. Don't build it for the organization you have today, but rather take some time to think about what's possible and what you desire and build your chart to represent the business you want in the future. This means that there'll likely be boxes that exist on your org chart but don't exist in reality today. That's okay. In fact, I would expect that to be the case, especially if you expect your business to grow over the next few years. By doing this, you're giving everyone on your team a picture of the business you hope to create in the future, and many of them will be able to see positions and functions that may exist in the future that they're really excited about, even if they don't exist today. I did this exercise with a client a few years ago, and the impact was amazing. His architectural firm had about 35 people when we built his org chart by function for the business he wanted 3 years in the future. He had over 60 functional boxes on his new org chart. Being an architect, he had ready access to a printer that could print large format documents, so he printed his new future org chart on a sheet of paper that was as large as your home theater screen. He called a meeting of his entire team and walked them through his new org chart. By sharing the future vision of his org chart, he was telling his team that he had plans to segment his business by markets, to open up positions for market leaders, and to provide opportunities that didn't exist anywhere in the business today. Then he did what I consider to be the magic trick. He pulled out a magic marker and invited everyone on his team to come write their name in the box that they wanted to be in 3 years. Everyone was excited to think about the positions that they might have in the future and claim that position for themselves. Instantly, the business owner had a clearer picture of the desires and dreams of his team members, and where they put their name on the org chart gave him an opportunity to have a real heart-to-heart with those who needed to gain skills or change behaviors if they wanted to be a viable candidate to fill a future role. From that single meeting, everyone in his business began seeing themselves in a bigger role in the company and working on the skills needed to be qualified for their ideal future role. Fast forward 4 years, that same business owner restructured his business to fit the organization chart he had designed several years before. His architect firm was far bigger. He had leaders for the new market segments he had outlined in his org chart, and with the newfound growth and success and additional leaders in his business, he made the decision to sell out to his partners and enjoy a well-deserved retirement. Is your organization chart doing that for you and for your team members? If not, maybe it's time to rethink how you're presenting it. But we're not quite finished. Here's number 3. Once you have your new functional org chart that represents your business of the future, I want you to identify the next 3 or 4 positions that you intend to fill. Now that you can see where you're heading, it's much easier to think through and plan out what your hiring needs will be over the next several months. Which positions do you want to remove your name from by adding a new team member and assigning them that specific responsibility? I find that many times business owners get stuck in their hiring because they don't know if they should hire a salesperson so they can focus on other aspects of the business, or if they should hire an admin person so they can spend more of their time selling. Once you see your future reality in your org chart, it becomes easier to see the path forward. In most cases, the business owner is the best person to do the sales for the business, so that may be the last position they leave before just being the general manager or CEO. That may not be the case for you, but if you see your name on your org chart in a functional role that could be filled by someone you could pay $18 or $20 an hour for, so that you could focus on the roles that are worth $200 or $300 an hour, shouldn't you start the hiring process right away to fill the lower level positions so you can focus on the more valuable role? By mapping out your hiring sequence, you'll make better hiring decisions and watch your stress level go down with each new hire. Trust me on this one. As we wrap up today's podcast, I want to give you a homework assignment. Set some time aside to go through the 3-step process I've outlined for you today. Number 1, draw your current org chart showing the functions of your business rather than the people in your business. Number 2, build a future version of your org chart showing what you want your business to look like in 3 years. And number 3, identify the next 3 or 4 positions that you need to fill to allow you to focus on the high-value functions of your business. If you'd like some additional support in this area or want to tap into our free resources, simply go to my website, www.tourtoprofit.com. You'll find everything you need there. Thanks for joining me today. Be sure to tune in next week when we're going to discuss 5 tips to take your weekly team meetings from good to great. You won't want to miss it. Now, go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.
Thank you for listening to Why Business Teams Fail and How to Avoid It. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends so you don't ever miss an episode. Now go make it a great week, and whatever you do, ride hard.